Let's get right to it. Last call here on UIndy TV. My name, Caden Colford, alongside Jake Helton, with some others to be introduced here shortly. Greyhounds coming off into yet another solid weekend of athletics here in the fall season. We'll first start with volleyball. They take the back half of the weekend. They knock off UIS pretty handily, 3-0, but this comes after a slight loss to Quincy. Quincy, very good, really one of the best teams in the GLVC, so it's tough to see that 3-1 loss. However, you bounce back against UIS to assert yourself in conference play, Jake.
Yeah, it wasn't the start you were necessarily looking for, but that game against Quincy, they were in it pretty much every single set. The last three were decided by 2 points, so it was a pretty tight contest. Unfortunately, Greyhounds unable to pull that one out, but Maddie Lynch still performing well. She had 29 kills between the two games. Expecting big numbers from her as always, but this UIndy football team, Caden, putting up big numbers, getting a second conference win, and taking down what we would consider somewhat of a rival in Truman State. Not necessarily as big of a rival as McKendree last week, but I think this is the best competition that we've seen for the Greyhounds, at least in the conference, the past 4 or 5 years.
And I think it's really cool to be close to the team going into the Truman State game. I had the chance to travel to Kirksville the year before last with Jace Hodge, and we stayed in Kirksville, got to enjoy it for the town and the city that it was. But it's more than just a football game for these two, because these two are the organizations, the squads that have the most eyes on them in the GLVC come the start of the year every single year. And obviously, Indianapolis is most often going to be your favorite to go take it all. But Truman State, there's something about being the underdog. There's something about being number 2, right? That you're always looking to get that upper edge, always looking for that number 1 spot. And Truman's been sitting there for 7-8 years, a long time in the GLVC. So you're always going to get your best if you're Indianapolis from the Bulldogs in the battle for the bone. That's what we called it a few years ago, but this time a little bit tougher for the Bulldogs since the Greyhounds. It's a new team for Indianapolis, not your average Greyhound team for sure, and they show that again and again this season.
Well, the Greyhounds have a new face in the backfield. Justers Fataki, I mean, he looked phenomenal and was probably the first running back to actually do something this year for the Greyhounds, which I was very glad to see. 170-plus yards for him, and one of the best performances this offensive line has put together. Sukup went down twice, but overall, way better performance against a pretty solid defensive line for Truman State.
You know, 293 yards rushing is always going to be well welcomed. That's the most that you've seen this season, and it would be the second most last season. You actually had 2 performances last year where you hit the 295 mark, just 2 yards away, but that's great to see, as you want to see that game get better, right, for the Greyhounds. You can see that when you establish the run game and get back to that Greyhound identity of just marching down the field with a pocket passer that can really do some damage in Gavin Sukup, not only with his arm, but with his legs as well. That makes this really a triple threat offense. When you have to worry about the quarterback running, the running back running, and obviously the deep threats downfield. You're looking at everybody and you're saying a great week on the road at Truman. That's a tough win to get no matter who you are.
Yeah, 505 total yards on the game, and that proves everything that you just said right there, Caden. A big win, and I will say it was a little bit different for the team this year. They didn't get to stay in Kirksville. From what I heard, they had to stay in Quincy, a little bit farther of a drive, then drive back to Kirksville. So a little bit different of a morning for the football team, but a big win, as you said. And now you look ahead to William Jewell at home, another big game, and I think this is another one the Greyhounds should win pretty handily.
You know, they're technically all supposed to be those, right? Those should wins, but those are some scary games, and we'll get to a couple of those that at the Division I level almost were a big surprise. But talking to Keevers, he understands where this team is in the conference, right? He understands the status that Indianapolis has in the GLVC, which you get your best game from Truman, you get your best game from everybody in the GLVC. That's why we see games that people think, well, it shouldn't be that close. Well, it's hard. When you're being scouted different than other teams. And obviously, every win's a win, but when you have a number in front of your name, that's a target. That's exactly what it is. A big red target on your back each and every week. And so the Greyhounds are going to, have to weather that. And you're going to get not only the best game from other teams, but the most creative game, the most complete game from other teams with, some motivation on the other end of the football.
It's exactly what we saw last year in this game. William Jewell gave the Greyhounds quite a challenge. They went into overtime. The Greyhounds ended up winning it. It was John Lewis who made it into the end zone on a bubble screen. I got to go on that trip. It was a fun trip, and William Jewell's a cool place to play. They're going to be here in Key Stadium this time, and it's going to be a good game, but I got the Greyhounds by, what did we say last week, 40?
40.
By 40.
Hey, we just might have them by 50 this week. But for the first time this season, last call, we're going to head to the course. We're going to hit the ball around a little bit, talk some golf as the Ryder Cup was in New York. This is Caden Colford, Jake Helton. Now we'll bring on Grant Kelly to talk some golf on last call. Grant, tell us about this weekend, what we saw from the Europeans, the Americans, and how did it all play out?
No, absolutely, Caden. I mean, what a weekend it was for the Ryder Cup. Two teams that had a lot of talent on both sides, but unfortunately, United States fell short. The first 2 days, Friday, Saturday, were just an absolute display of dominance from the European side in the first, I'd say, 72 holes. So it's a tournament that happens once every 2 years. So other than the Masters, this is a highly anticipated tournament of the year, and fans look forward to it every single 2 years, like I said. So some of the different times of the format of this type of event is pretty much like you got the foursome on Friday, then you got the foursome alternate shots, and then you got the singles match on Sunday.
Yeah.
Now with the singles match on Sunday, that's always a chance where people can bounce back if the team events didn't go so well. So, and that's exactly what they did. On Sunday, they had a lot of guys who decided to show up for their team, for their country.
Sure seemed like it.
For Keegan Bradley, for them to show up for him really meant a lot. And I thought it was just such a wonderful display of not giving up on Sunday.
Grant, I'll ask you this. Through the first couple days, I feel like a lot of fans, as Americans, we're looking at this team saying, what are we doing right now? But you move into Sunday, I feel like that's where the Americans really had the advantage, was in the one-to-one matchup, was in the head-to-heads. Where did you see the improvements from early on this weekend into yesterday?
Yeah, I think a lot of that had to go with from the players' meetings that happened after Friday and Saturday. I think that those players' meetings really were the determining factor of saying, hey guys, we're not done. This needs to be an effort together where we show this, our country and our captain, that we have it and we can fight.
Well, Jake, obviously not the result that the States would have wanted. Are you satisfied with the late comeback that you saw on Sunday, or did you feel like this one should have been further within reach?
I think satisfied is never going to be the case, especially when you're talking about playing for your country. You don't get that win, and I mean that's all you're out there looking for is a win right there. But you do have some positives in there. You have some good back nines out of guys like Bryson DeChambeau, and then a couple of other guys did their thing. They won, but I think the biggest thing for America is you've got 365 days to improve. Come back again next year. You lose this one on your home turf. I know that hurts. Yeah. So they're going to be coming back just that extra step, wanting a little bit more next year.
One thing I really loved about it, just watching your favorites go head-to-head, watching Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy really just duke it out on the last day of the tournament. That's always super fun to watch. And the PGA is really cool, but the Ryder Cup just makes it that much more intimate, Grant. And I think that made for a great viewing experience.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of emotion and pride on the line for both of these teams as their countries are on their hats, on their chests. This is a big deal. So I think ultimately what it was Europe has a little bit more veterans on their squad, a little bit more serious attitude, tone. I kind of feel like, with Luke Donald, there's a sense of a different type of seriousness compared to the seriousness that the U.S. players are giving Keegan Bradley. And I feel like that had a lot to do with what we saw this past weekend out there on the course. So next event will be 2027 in Ireland. Should be a good event. Look, maybe we can go back and steal one on their turf.
And I think switching the arena up might be a benefit for the Europeans more than the Americans. We know that Rory had a tough week dealing with fans on multiple occasions for multiple different discrepancies on that end. But how do you see things changing going to Ireland in a few years?
Well, I mean, it's just going to be tough, A lot of momentum for Europe after this one here in Bethpage, winning on American soil. So we're going to really have to bring our A game. And I don't know, I think that we might need to switch the captain. Do something different, make an adjustment. I love Keegan Bradley, but a change needs to be made.
Any suggestions? Who should that captain be?
I'm going to say Phil Mickelson. I think we give Mickelson the nod and let him roll. Let him get dirty in the trenches over in Ireland.
Go.
Hey, Phil Mickelson is a guy that's been there, and Grant Kelly says that might be the guy for the States to take it in 2027. Well, I'm glad that we talked some golf on Last Call. It's always nice, and hey, maybe we'll go out and play around sometime. However, coming up, we have some IU football, Notre Dame football, and eventually NFL football to get to on Last Call.
News. How much time we got? Okay. Coffee. I love coffee.
We're on the air.
All right. Good evening. I'm Chris Hammer, here to report the news for you. For your campus, local, and national headlines, UIndy TV News has got you covered. Wednesdays at 6.
We are in the middle of football season. However, we would be completely wrong if we were not to bring up the absolute run that the Indiana Fever are putting on in the WNBA. They made it past the dream in the first round. They find the MVP in Asia Wilson on the other side, and they're going to a Game 5 in Vegas. Caden Colford, Jake Helton, Grant Kelly sticking alongside us here. Guys, I open up the floor to you. How in the world have the Fever made it to this point? And frankly, how did they get done? How did they get it done in Game 5?
It's because they're so scrappy. I mean, this team, they get 20 steals a game. It feels like that. They have their hands on every ball. They're disrupting Asia Wilson. She still had her 30 points the other day. But, I mean, this defense, it is just pestering. I mean, you can't do anything. You can't make one wrong pass if you're the Vegas Aces. I mean, you really have to play your best game. We've seen them do it twice. Asia Wilson had a good bounce-back performance in Game 2. They win Game 1 here in Cambridge, and I just think that right now all the momentum is with the Fever after winning Game 4. I don't think a lot of people were expecting them to come out and win it. Now they have the momentum. They've got to go get this Game 5.
Grant, your team was the underdog in the Fever. Do you feel like Jake is right in saying that the momentum is on their side, even though you're going to Vegas for this Game 5?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the resilience the Fever have shown the last couple games, especially as this postseason has gone on, has just really been accredited. And I'm going to say it, bench mob. I think the bench mob has had a lot to do with the energy that they're bringing into these games, and it's showing. And, they need the same type of energy going into Las Vegas.
Man, I could say a lot about this Fever team. First and foremost, Stephanie White deserves Coach of the Year. I don't care who you are. The best player in the WNBA right now, Caitlin Clark is out for almost the entire season. And it wasn't just the fact that she was out, it was the fact that she was strung along, right? Caitlin Clark might come back next week, might be the week after, here in a month. She'll be back for the playoffs. Never got her back. But still, Stephanie White keeps this team afloat. And as we look at this series by itself, Kelsey Mitchell is proving to be a top 5, top 3 player in the league right now. And I think it's hard to dispute that with the way that she's scoring the ball coming off of a fresh 25. But I also want to look at Aaliyah Boston. Aaliyah Boston is going one-on-one with a 4-time MVP in Asia Wilson. And I think she's putting some belt to backside here. I really do. I really think that Aaliyah Boston is putting the MVP in the dirt right now.
Saying it's a one-on-one is even a bit generous. They're triple teaming her down there. Her footwork, her post game is insane. I don't think I've seen any better in the WNBA right now. I mean, Aaliyah Boston is at the top of her game. Kelsey Mitchell, I'm almost likening her to a less flashy Caitlin Clark. Some of the shots that she's hitting coming off of screens, I mean, they're
amazing.
She's a baller. And she's real crafty, too. It's not just her scoring off the dribble. Like, she can go off of the screen. She uses the back cut very well. This Fever offense is very crafty in the way that they score. But they get a lot of points off of turnovers and in transition. That's where this team is at its strongest. Lexi Hall serves as almost a third big man on the court at sometimes, is the way that she's able to guard the post. And then they get the steals, they get the ball out, and there's always someone down the court, almost cherry picking, it seems like. I mean, this Fever team was hitting on all cylinders last night.
Hey, when the Fever are playing like they are right now, it's going to take a tough team to beat them. However, Vegas could very well be that tough team. We'll find out. Game 5 soon to come. And the Fever, just one game tomorrow, 9:30 for all the marbles. Those marbles being a shot at a chip. I cannot wait. But we're going to hop back into football. At the Division I level, we'll start with Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, they're continuing to be Notre Dame on the football field. I would call this almost a week off for them, comparing who they've played in the last 3 weeks to who they played in Arkansas. They get a huge win, the Fighting Irish do, 56-13. They retain number 21 in the country right now. Fighting Irish still looking very good, even after a shaky start to the season, Jake.
You see some positives, and then you see a lot of negatives for Notre Dame. We'll start with the positives. It's a field day for the running backs. 7 running back touchdowns, a couple of them coming through the air, a couple of them on the ground. But Jeremiah Love, he looked great today. And I know we're saying it's not against as good of an opponent. Arkansas's head coach got fired right after the game. It's not a good look for Arkansas right now. But that doesn't take away from the offensive performance. I mean, you had backups scoring against the first-team defense for Arkansas. It was a great performance all around for Notre Dame. Jeremiah Love, 14 carries, 57 yards, but it was through the air where I really liked him. He had 2 touchdowns on the ground, but he also had 2 through the air, 5 receptions, 70 yards. I mean, this guy balled out. It's what we were waiting for. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you really wanted to see Jeremiah Love's big game. But I say Notre Dame is in trouble. I'm hitting the panic button on Notre Dame right now. And the only reason I say that is because their 2 biggest opponents just lost. USC just lost to Illinois, and Syracuse just got blown out by Duke. Syracuse lost their quarterback. They're done for. Season is over. I mean, they might as well just stop playing football at this point.
And so the question I'll pose to you then, Grant, is with those 2 big opponents being knocked off, Notre Dame does not have a ranked game left on their schedule this year. Does that leave an alley for them to enter the college football playoff, or is that written off?
I don't really think so. I think that it's going to be really tough for them to continue to win out and get into the playoff. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how they go against Boise State next week. But I'm kind of in agreement. I kind of agree with Jake there. I don't see it happening.
It helps that Boise State was ranked to start the season, perhaps, until South Florida would blow them out, being unranked at that point. But no number next to that name, and maybe USC can establish themselves as a more dominant football team in the Big Ten later on.
I mean, they really just don't have a ton of time to do that, and I would be a little bit wrong if I didn't mention C.J. Carr, 354 yards, 4 touchdowns for Notre Dame. I mean, he's putting together a great season. The way he performed against Miami, I mean, he put them in a position to win that game. It really comes down to, can Notre Dame's defense get back on the right page? They struggled at the beginning of that game against Arkansas, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, is this going to be another one of those games? But then you look back a little bit later in the game, and Arkansas wasn't doing anything on defense there. They had a really good dual-threat quarterback. They shut him down. It was pretty much all Notre Dame from the start, and I assume the rest of their games will be like that. So it's just going to be a matter of, do other teams lose? Do the top 10 teams beat each other out?
Let's flip the state over. We'll go down south to Bloomington. They were actually in Iowa City to take on the Hawkeyes. They win 20-15. Top 10 Hoosiers still looking pretty good. Fernando Mendoza impressing, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw an interception. However, not the most efficient game compared to what we've seen, but we're putting that up against 21 for 23 game, 21 for 22 outings. I thought he still played well. But this was a scare, most definitely a scare for IU and for Coach Signetti. I looked at Coach this game when IU had a chance on 4th down 3 separate times, and they ran the same play 3 separate times, and I'm thinking, man, Coach, we love you, but are you serious? This is an unranked Iowa Hawkeyes team. You're supposed to be top 10 in the country after blowing out number 8 by 53. I don't think 20-15 it's a win, but it's not what you were hoping for.
Well, Iowa did what Iowa does. They made this a dogfight. They made IU make mistakes. The interception from Mendoza, the failed 4th down attempts, the fumble. There was a lot of things going on for IU that caused them to struggle offensively. You started off on that first drive, getting down there, getting in the end zone, and you're thinking, okay, IU's going to get on a roll, take this game away. We're going to be looking at flipping the channel by halftime. But no, Iowa fought back. I was honestly pretty proud of Iowa's effort. They put it together, and they almost came away with a win. A costly interception at the end of the game really cost Illinois, and then a safety at the end makes it look a little bit closer. But Iowa had a chance to win this game. They were up with about 8 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. I don't know that this is necessarily reason to raise alarms for IU. It is a good defense in Iowa, and these are the games that you're going to have to win if you're IU. You're going to have to win these tough dog fights against Big Ten defenses that are a little bit better than maybe the first 3 teams that you played where you put up 70 points. You might be in some games where you're not scoring more than 30 points, and that's just how IU's going to have to learn to win those games. They were able to win them last year. Can they repeat this year?
Well, Grant, I'll ask you this. When the College Football Playoff Committee looks back on, week 4 and sees the Indiana Hoosiers win 20-15 against the Hawkeyes, do you feel like, what kind of stain does that leave on IU's record, if at all, if anything? It is on the road. Iowa might prove to be a tough team as the season goes on. Where would you grade this in terms of its importance come the end of the season?
Every game's important, obviously. I think, I don't think it puts any type of blemish on their record or anything like that. I think that, if IU just continues to come out and take care of business, they'll be in good shape towards the end of the year.
Sounds good. That's Grant Kelly. My name's Caden Colford. Jake Helton here on Last Call. We're going to take it to the NFL here in just a minute.
Good morning, Greyhounds, and welcome back to your Wednesday show. We have some very exciting things to talk about with our very special guest.
So what do you find unique about UIndy, and what kind of pulled you here?
What are you doing?
Watching Good Morning Greyhounds every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m.
Colts took a trip to LA, however, not exactly a vacation, to say the least. They would end up losing 27-20 against a tough Rams squad. And, there were a few blemishes in this game that kept the Colts off the scoreboard and eventually out of the win column. So now, I guess we're onto that stage of euphoria as Colts fans, saying that we're undefeated. Right. But this was a good Rams team on the road, tough game, close game, 4-quarter game. I'm not necessarily throwing a fit at this point, and I think it is not a good thing to see the first loss of the season, but it's good that it's right now in the way that it happened. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I don't think so. I think that, everyone was all high on the 3-0 start, right? And this loss this past Sunday, it hurts a bit, but like you said, get it out of the way, get it over with. Hopefully they can turn the page and figure it out going forward.
I mean, the Colts weren't going to go 17-0. I don't think that's realistic to say. So I think it's good to, not necessarily good to get the loss in, but I guess come back to reality if you're a fan. I mean, this is a very good Rams team. It was only a matter of time before Puka Nacua got involved, and I mean, he went off, had a monster game, and that's what you needed if you were the Rams. And a few mistakes from the Colts late really cost them. That fumble from Mitchell, and then you go down the interception and the blown coverage. That's 3 big mistakes that could have been avoided, but they were not avoided, and the Colts, they lose because of those 3 mistakes. I will say it was probably those 3 mistakes that ended up costing them the game. I don't think it's really anything bad about Daniel Jones. I mean, he had 262 yards, but those 2 interceptions, he's trying to force it down the field, and that's something we hadn't seen him do in those first 3 games.
Yeah.
So I think it might have, maybe he felt the pressure to get the Colts this 4th win, and that caused him to force some things downfield, but that didn't look like the same Daniel Jones that we saw through the first 3 weeks.
Well, when we look at that second half, the Colts were playing from behind a lot, which really isn't a spot that they've had to do. They have not had to do that. Daniel Jones has been very comfortable in the pocket, and he's been able to enjoy the lead on the scoreboard more often than not this season. And I think we all know that it's 2 separate games, when you're ahead and when you're behind, in terms of your play calling, in terms of your confidence, in terms of your execution. So it's good to see the Colts on both ends, and you have a really good shot next week in the Raiders to get back where you want to be. Very winnable and could be a very successful outing next week, Grant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Get back on track here. They're not going to win every game like Jake said. So just get back on track. Beating Las Vegas, I think that's what it's going to take. So lots of positives going into this next coming week.
What are you seeing heading into Las Vegas next week, Jake?
Honestly, I see a pretty easy win for the Colts. I don't think it should be too much of a challenge. The Raiders did put up a fight this weekend against the Bears, ended up losing, and at the end of the day, it's the Bears. So, I mean,
it's the Bears.
It's the way you got to look at it. I'm sorry, Bears fans, but it's at the end of the day, the Colts are probably going to win this one by 3 or 4 scores. We're going to get back to how it was the first 3 weeks, I would say, but I wouldn't know. I don't know that you're going to gain anything from this. This isn't a big win for the Colts. It's not going to boost them up in any rankings or anything. But I will say that getting this game against the Rams boosts the strength of schedule a little bit. Now you've played that good team, you've had your test, and you've kind of showed your hand a little bit if you're the Colts, and now other teams are going to be a little bit more prepared coming in.
Hey, Colts fans will just have to settle for 3-1 for the first time in forever. Grant, thank you for your analysis this show. It is now time for the Primetime Pick Em. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games on the slate, and we start with the Vikings as they're going to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Browns have snuck out a few this season. Vikings dealing with some injury. I'm going with the Browns.
I'm going with the Browns as well. The injuries and just the way that the Vikings performed this week, I feel like they have a pretty good chance. I know our guy in the studio, Nate's pretty happy about that. But the Browns have picked up some good wins.
Yeah.
Not the best performance offensively last week against the Lions.
They find a way.
But, I mean, it's the Lions. So it's going to be a tough game either way. Mm-hmm. I like the Browns to win this one.
And when you're having trouble at quarterback, that's trouble for the entire team. Carson Wentz might take them to victory, but, we'll see. And we'll just hold our breath, wait on that one. Raiders, they'll be in town. We just talked this game a little bit. And I think me and you are on the same page for this as well. You said Colts pretty easily?
Yeah, Colts. No, I don't see a world that the Colts lose this one. If they do,
they're a tough team at home. I think Indianapolis right now, just as a city and as a populace, very excited for all of its sports teams, including the Colts. So I'm right there with you.
Especially when you get a game where you know you're going to win. All the fans are going to be there, excited, ready to cheer for some touchdowns. So I'm ready for a high-scoring game.
Now, AFC versus NFC. Eagles are hosting the Broncos. We've seen a little bit of everything from the Broncos this year, and the Eagles have had a few great games under their belt. They're also at home. I think it's tough to vote against the Eagles in this one.
Yeah, the Eagles are just finding a way to win games. They beat the Chiefs, who were now back on track last night. They've dominated the Ravens, and I just think that right now the Eagles are the best team at winning games right now. And at early season, that's kind of what matters. You're just trying to get through to the end of the season, win enough games to where you can put yourself in a position where you know you're going to win, and you don't have to maybe play those last 3 games. You can save some bodies and stay healthy. That's what the Eagles have done the past couple of seasons, and it's worked out well for them.
Yeah, I think you're right, but I think they're going to lose. I think they're due. I think everybody, you're at that stage where you're due to lose. Just like you're due to win, some teams can be due to lose. Eagles are in for a bad beat with Bo Nix and the Broncos in town. I think they might just spoil a day in Philly. So mark me down with the Broncos. We'll move to the Bucs. They're going to Seattle to play the Seahawks. That's a tough place to play, Jake.
I like the Bucs though. They played a good game against the Eagles this week. They had a chance to win it at the end. Baker Mayfield made a mistake late, threw an interception. Probably shouldn't have thrown, but I mean, the Bucs are a fumble and a bad pass away from winning this football game. But that just goes back to the way that the Eagles win football games after that one. But I think the Bucs find a way to win here.
I do too. And I love the Baker Mayfield renaissance that we are starting to see in the NFL. People are finally starting to give this guy his flowers. Even after winning the Heisman in college, he never got the respect in the NFL that I feel like he deserved. And especially after last year, heading into this year, having a 3-1 season to start, the one loss being to quite possibly the best team in the league in the Philadelphia Eagles. I like Baker Mayfield in this game, and I'm glad to see him at the top of some lists. Final game. Lions at Bengals. Bengals, another team that are dealing with some quarterback trouble, some health concerns perhaps, whereas the Lions are coming off one of their best seasons in program history. What do you think?
I feel like this isn't even a question. I don't know if anyone's messing with me back in the control room, but no. I'm not going to pick the Bengals, unfortunately. They suck. Jay Browning, horrible. Jamar Chase, if you have him on fantasy, you might as well bench him. He'll probably have 6 points again. Chase Brown hasn't had more than 50 yards in a game this year. Offensive line sucks. Defense sucks. They're giving up like 30 points a game. It's a rough time to be a Bengals fan, and unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with the Lions.
You heard it here first. The Bengals suck. And the Lions are going to get the win on Primetime Pick Em. Last time right here on Last Call.